Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at goracing.ie.
And you're very welcome along to Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball. John Duggan here with you this week. Plenty of action to look forward to in the Sport of Kings at Punchestown, Cork, Aintree and Sandown this weekend. Joined as ever by our racing guru, Johnny Ward. How are you, Johnny?
Good, yeah. Last weekend was exciting. This weekend probably not quite as exciting, but still like so much good racing going on. And I think Sunday in Ireland is going to be really cracking stuff.
Fairyhouse, what did you take out of it, Johnny?
Applejade should probably go for the champion hurdle.
Why not? Why won't they go? Surely they should go, shouldn't they?
They went chasing with Samcro this year because they'd never won the champion hurdle. Jigginsown, that is, Michael and Eddie O'Leary. The chance of him winning the champion hurdle now looks a little bit, certainly looks a lot more remote than it did, we'll say this time last week. Do they care enough to win another mayor's hurdle? I would argue probably they'll be thinking if Samcro is beaten at Christmas, maybe we'll actually go the champion hurdle route with her and she would have a chance. Like she beat Super Sunday by 20 lengths, regardless of him not having had a run. That's incredible stuff.
I think she has to be, I don't know if she was over the top last March, Johnny, but she didn't run her race against Benny, did you?
Definitely not, John. I mean, there was talk maybe that she was in season at the time. She never travelled. I mean, she didn't look happy out in front. Compare that to, we'd say, last Sunday, and admittedly she didn't quite make the running for the whole race, but she just looked really on good terms with herself, and that performance last Sunday at Cheltenham last March would have been good enough to beat Benny Dedew, and you know, I definitely give her the benefit of the doubt. I know she didn't, you know, she's run a couple of disappointing races, but if you look at the overall level of her career, she's been an incredible mare, and I think they'll be very keen to exact a bit of revenge on a couple of the horses maybe last year if they go for the mare's route. But I definitely do think there is a fair chance she might go to the champion hurdle because they're sporting people at the end of the day, Michael and Eddie O'Leary.
They've won everything. They've won the Irish National, they've won the English National, they've won the Gold Cup twice, Warwick Trish and Don Cossack. Surely the champion hurdle is one of the most prestigious races in the sport. Absolutely.
Champion hurdle and champion chase, they're the races that they're hoping to win. Samcro might provide them with the champion chase. Who knows in a couple of years.
Can he jump fences?
I don't think he can jump hurdles well enough at this stage to win a champion hurdle. Having said that, I think he'll never make the running again. If you go back to his bumper days, he'd one run at Navan when he made the running. He wasn't at all impressive that particular day, and he just looks a better horse coming off a good gallop. But he jumped too big, John, last Saturday. I mean, his first maybe 3 or 4 jumps, you're not going to beat over there jumping like that. And I thought he should have been chasing the season. I think, in fairness to Jigginsown, they did want to win a champion hurdle, and he looked like he had a massive chance for that. But one thing's for sure, I think if he goes to Cheltenham in the champion hurdle in March, he'll be a lot closer to Boover there than he was on Saturday.
Well, the ground will be probably quicker, which might help him. But Desi Hughes, the late great trainer Desi Hughes, always said you need to be able to jump hurdles slickly to win a champion hurdle. We saw that with Hardy Eustace, we saw that with Isterbrack. There's no hiding place over 8 hurdles over 2 miles at that pace at Cheltenham.
Like you mentioned, Hardy Eustace, like, what a horse to jump. I mean, he didn't. You don't spend time in the air unnecessarily over hurdles or fences at that level. Samcro spent an inordinate time in the air relative to the likes of Archibald. Remember him jumping a hurdle. Like, there's beauty in hurdle jumping when it's done at particular speed and done so fluently. And you're completely right. He's not going to win a champion hurdle jump like that. Having said that, I don't remember him jumping that badly when he was held up in his races as a novice. The unfortunate thing is, though, he's been beaten his last 3 races. I never thought I'd say that.
Delta Work and Quick Grabbing briefly, will they be winning at the festivals?
Don't think Quick Grabbing will be good enough to win a Supreme, but he has plenty of ability. Again, he's another horse. I don't necessarily think it suited him making the run. He's a very high cruising speed, but I'd imagine they might have something better even at home. Maybe Animix, who's second season novice. Delta Work, I think he's a definite RSA contender. That form against Glenlow last year is rock solid, and if you see how close he was to the fence as he jumped it last Sunday, to get away with the mistake was actually quite remarkable. But he was well on top of the finish. Like, I just thought he might kind of outstay Le Richburg, but he showed a bit of a turn of foot. And when you've Gordon Elliott train a horse to be ready for Cheltenham, like we'll say Shattered Love was when she won the JLT last year, they're going to perform, and he's a big chance in the RSA. Whether he beats Santini or not maybe is another thing, but he definitely has a chance.
And you're at the HRI Awards, Johnny, on Monday night in Dublin, and great to see Katie Walsh, Nina Carberry and Rachel Blackmore honoured.
Yeah, they brought up a new award. I think it was like a Racing Heroes Award. So it'll be interesting to see, I suppose, who gets it henceforth. But I think it was probably fast-tracked in this year because they had to honour Nina and Katie, what they've done for the sport. And Rachel got the National Achievement Award, which I think was entirely merited, even though she hasn't actually won any award this season. She was top jockey going into the night. And what she's done for racing again is quite incredible. But what was really interesting was the way Katie Walsh spoke about gender issues in the sense of, being a female rider. And it was like, you just get on with it in racing. You don't moan about, perceived injustices or perceived discrimination. You get on with it. And even though sexism in sport has become again quite topical in the last week or so because of an infamous incident, racing, the equality in racing is something that we should all be very proud of. And nobody really cares what you are as long as you can ride or you can train.
Absolutely, Johnny. Well, thank you for coming in today and for Friday Night Racing. Our guest this week is a man who is really at the top of his game in terms of national hunt. Paul Townend, how are you?
How are you, lads?
How's the form?
Yeah, good form now, good form. Calm before the storm for the weekend.
He was in effervescent form at the HRI Awards the other night. Of course, there was no racing the following day. Yeah.
Effervescent form. That's pretty impressive. Paul, I'm looking at the stats here and I'm seeing Rachel Blackmore on 62 winners. You on 61, Davy Russell on 57. You must be loving this battle.
Yeah, it's intriguing, I suppose. Rachel's doing so the year. I never had such a good summer, and long may it last into the winter. But if we can all stay fit and well and in one piece, it'll make for an interesting season ahead.
We see some horses in the background there on the wall, Paul. Anybody in particular? I'm sure the Hurricane's there in some way or shape or form.
As you're talking about Hardy Eustace and them, I was just looking around, and actually Hurricane flies on every wall inside in the sitting room. So there's no getting away from him around here. Hurricane
Fly must be very close to your heart, Paul. You won, I think it was the 2010 Champion Hurdle at Punchestown. You beat Solwit by a whisker. You probably know this horse more than any other horse, and dual champion hurdle winner over at Cheltenham, and of course winning all before him at Leopardstown. I think it was 22 grade ones. What was so special about him? Like you were saying about champion hurdlers jumping, you could ride him down to a jump as if it wasn't there. He'd never let you down, and he was such an intelligent horse as well, and had the will to win. I was lucky enough to get a lot of good days on him. I had my first ride and first win in a grade one in him, so yeah, I owe a lot to the horse for my career anyway.
He did have that kind of Monju in him as well, Paul, didn't he? Like that he had that kind of feistiness, and what really impressed me later in his career was his battling qualities in races. Like his will to win was something quite astonishing. It
was. Like he never knew when he was beat, and you just see him. He captured the imagination of the public as well, I suppose, because he wore his heart in his sleeve in a finish. He'd stick his neck out and his ears back, and he'd almost eyeball the horse alongside him, and you'd want a pretty good one to get by him. Now, when I think of Middleton, I think of John Fenton, Paul, and Cork hurling. But you grew up in racing stock. Your dad, Tim, is a trainer. I think your sister Jodie, an amateur jockey as well. So was there hurling and horses growing up, or? Little bit of hurling starting off, like all people in Ireland. We played hurling and football, but there came a time then that it was either make the decision between going hurling training or go ride the ponies. So it was never in doubt for me. Stuck into the pony racing and built on the riding from there. We've got a photo of you as a whippersnapper and Charlie Swan, which looks great. Charlie Swan, of course, great jockey of the 1990s. Did you have the bug from the beginning? Was he your hero?
It's a hell of a jumper, Paul.
Thanks for that, lads. Yeah, yeah, I did. I always wanted to be a jockey. Growing up, they were heroes of mine. And then I suppose my cousin Davy Condon was a couple of years ahead of me, and he was, when I was starting pony racing, he was gone from there. He was an apprentice on the flat to Willie. So that was driving me on even more to try and do what he was doing. And it's, as you say, it's a bug, and I was bitten with it from a very young age.
Shouldn't underestimate the quality of Davy Condon as well. He
Ebba Zion, remember him?
40-1. Like Davy Condon rode on the flat, and he had a shocker of a fall in Cork in a hurdle race that he thought he was lying on the ground, and I remember talking about this where he thought he was paralysed, and he almost had this moment of acceptance where he's like, I'm not going to walk again. But he was fine, like, to get on with normal life. He didn't ride, but Paul, he was a hell of a rider.
He was a great rider. To ride to the level he rode on the flat and over jumps, you know, he rode in a Melbourne Cup. I think he could have been even a teenager for Willie. He was style and strength. And he left a big vacancy in the weigh room when he subsequently had to retire. But he was a great help to me. I suppose he got me into Willie's starting off. I was up there in school holidays and things, and he got me an apprenticeship there. And when he moved on to Nicky Richards then in England, I stepped in and got a few opportunities off Willie.
Did you model yourself on him in any way?
I suppose I did. Yeah, of course I did. He was doing what I wanted to do, and I grew up with him. You know, he doesn't live far from me at home, so I moved into his house when I came here, and I think all young lads should watch Davy riding. You know, he had such strength and style. He was so tidy in a finish as well.
Paul, I remember going into a bookie shop in 2008, and I backed a horse called Indian Pace in the Galway Hurdle, and I started screaming at the screens, come on the Indian, and there was an old lad, he must have been about 80 or 90, and he was shaking his walking stick at me to shut up.
I hope he wasn't Indian, was he?
No, he wasn't. No, he was an Irish gentleman. But the reason why is because you were coming with a late charge. I think it was John Kiley's horse to win the Galway Hurdle, Paul, and you were only 17 years of age. I mean, that must have been unbelievable.
Yeah, I suppose I'd actually ridden him a couple of times in the flat myself and won him, and I'd only had 2 or 3 over jumps at the time, so it was a lot of trust in John, I suppose, for John to put a lot of trust in me, to send me out in such a competitive handicap hurdle with such little experience. But it was a great day. It was a massive springboard for me as well, and I owe a lot to John and that horse as well. And they landed a bit of a touch with him as well, so everyone was happy.
Yeah, you were happy, John.
I was happy. Probably the last winner I had, to be honest.
John Kiley, like, what a man. You know, there was clips of Frank Oakes.
It was Thurles, was it?
In Thurles. He's still riding out the horse that won Mountain Carl. He's 77. But John Kiley, at least, he could still be doing it. But until recently, he was still riding out Carlingford Lock at 77 in the morning. He's a man of few words, Paul, but what a trainer.
Yeah, unreal trainer, and such a gentleman as well. To deal with and to speak to, and you know, when you're riding for him, he doesn't say a whole lot, but what he does say, you really have to take note of it. And when John thinks he has one right, he usually does.
What's it like working with Willie? You've been there a long time now, Paul, in Close Sutton.
Yeah, their ages. Willie's a fair man. He's given me a lot of opportunities and stood by me, you know. So once you're fair with Willie, he's fair with you, and he's an easy man to ride with or ride for and work with. So. He's just such an intelligent man as well. He works off his eye in the yard in the morning, and you know, the odd time he tell you to do something and you think he's mad, but 99 times out of 100 it works out. That's
the thing with Willie. Paul said he's eye for something, and he does things on intuition. Like, and I don't think Paul, you can teach what he sees or what he's kind of inclined to see that maybe somebody else doesn't. No, definitely not. It's a natural gift for him, you know, and like I say, he'd give you instructions some days and you'd be thinking, well, you know, is this the right thing? But it generally is, and that's not by luck. And Paul, obviously Ruby's got the pick of the man's over the years, and have you found that ever frustrating that, you know, Ruby might be on the best one? Yeah, I suppose if you didn't find it frustrating, you wouldn't stay going this game because you wouldn't have the will to win. But look, the position I'm in is an unreal position. Like, it's as good as first jockey in most yards in the country. So it's the way it is. Ruby's Ruby at the end of the day. You know, you know what he's achieved speaks for itself. But he doesn't always pick the right one. And you know, like Sunday, there's a double meeting on, and
I go to Cork with a lot of very good rides for Willie. So, the position I'm in is huge. And I suppose when Ruby has a bit of misfortune, I get to step into the hot seat, as they say. So, it's an unreal position to be in. But, it is hard to win on a couple and get the boot off them then.
What's the biggest thing you've learned from Ruby, Paul?
I've learned a lot from him. From how to look at a race beforehand, how to analyse a race, and I suppose just when you're riding out with him for so long, as a kid when he used to drive into the yard and you'd be mucking out stables, you'd be looking around the corner to see was he coming. So like riding out with him, you learn so much without even thinking you are, just watching him ride, and his strength and ability to settle and hold horses is second to none.
I remember meeting Paul Carberry the other night at the awards and probably told him he was the best rider ever, and probably tell Ruby the same thing when I meet him. But is Ruby the best, Paul, do you think?
Tactically, he's as good as anyone I've ever ridden against anyway. And, he's natural over fence. He doesn't move. And what he's achieved speaks for itself. You don't ride as many winners and for so long at the top level like he has, unless you're exceptionally good.
There was actually, when he says there he doesn't move over fence, there was a memorable photo of Kilulta Vic. You remember the race in Leopardstown when Kilulta Vic practically capsized at the last.
And he came back.
Yeah, and won. But the horse was basically like half into the ground in the photo. The horse had completely fallen, and Ruby's stance was exactly as if he was still jumping the fence. He just hadn't moved. And I was just like, you can imagine being in a car and kind of like being told to just like basically not move your position while being kind of almost like chucked out the window. And that was Ruby. And I was just like, this is incredible to watch.
Well, I always have felt, guys, that Ruby's had a clock in his head. I remember Al Farroff winning the Supreme and Ruby being injured, and he came back and Sprinter Sacre was behind him in the race. And Ruby just has that clock in his head of how to pace himself in a race.
And also not to get a horse doing too much. Even if a horse is stepping back and trip and he wants to go gallop, I think that's one thing, Paul, that Ruby is never going to go too quick.
Like I suppose if he doesn't know it by now, he'll never learn it. But it's very hard to ride against him in a race because he's so motionless, but he's doing so much with his legs and without moving his hands that it's hard to tell how he's actually going if you're following him in a race. And you can often go by him and jump the last, and here he is coming back outside you and thinking, geez, I thought he was beat 3 hurdles ago, So he without looking like he's doing a whole lot, there's a lot going on there.
You've ridden 8 winners at Cheltenham, Paul, over the years, and some surprises in recent years, Arctic Fire, Wicklow Brave, Penn Hill in recent times. Is the buzz to ride a winner at Cheltenham completely different to anywhere else?
Yeah, I actually think riding winners in Cheltenham gets better with every winner you rode, because I didn't know what to expect from my first one, and I was a bit in shock. But then when it sunk in, I wanted to ride another one. It took me a couple of years to ride another one, and when you get one, it's an addiction, and the more you have, the more you want to ride there, and the adrenaline pumping through you coming back down the chute is second to none.
You rode Lorena there, Paul, last March. I suppose the question we're all asking ourselves is how good she is. Have we got to the bottom of her yet?
I don't think so. She's brushed aside everything she ran against last year. In being realistic, she has to step up a hell of a lot from what she beat this year. But the ease in which she done everything, and what she does at home leads you to think that there is a lot more to come from her.
I suppose it's a game, Paul, that we know has a lot of ups and downs. It's a dangerous game for jockeys. We've seen fatalities on the course, very, very sadly. And I think you need to be very mentally resilient. I think Willie was at the HRI Awards with Johnny there on Monday night, and he was lauding you for that ride you gave Prava Laguna at Punchestown back in April. You rode a treble on the day, your next destination as well, I think in Patrick's Park. Obviously the day before didn't go your way with Album Photo. How did you mentally steel yourself over that 24 hours to bounce back and say, you know what, we're just going to give it another go here?
Look, I had a lot of good people around me, was the main thing. I had a lot of people helping me. I put down a fair night of it the night before, and I just thought this is the worst thing that could ever happen in the world. But I'd a lot of good close friends, and a lot of people giving me support on the phone, and I suppose that's what racing does best. As much as competitive as it is, when things go very bad, the people in racing really come behind you, and you can feel the support coming from them.
Just to clarify, I suppose a few non-racing fans, what happened there was Paul kind of thought the last fence was being dolled off, and it was like a split-second decision, and in which he carried out one of his rivals. But it's funny enough, like Paul, that was brought up lately, and I'd completely forgotten about it because I just thought it was one of these things that happened in a race. You move on, and when you put it into the context of, we'll say, what was it, in 2003, I think, we lost 3 jockeys in Ireland. We lost JT McNamara not that long ago. We've had jockeys with colossal injuries. Something like that, to me, it's just you just got to move on.
Yeah, it was put in perspective to me by someone that night that there's a lot worse things happen in life outside the back door, and I had to apologise, and I'm sorry to anyone that backed the horse ranting that day, but it was sport as well, and in the grand scheme of things in life, a lot worse can happen,
Willie was amazing, I thought, after that as well. It was like, if ever there was a measure of the man, the way to deal with this, and I believe he got you to come in extra early the next morning so you could get a good slagging about it and get on with your work.
Yeah, they weren't holding back any punches the next morning anyway, that's for sure, but it was probably the best way to get over it. Look, that's the thing, we have a good team in Willie's as well, massive team there, and I'm sure if the shoe was on the other foot, I'd have probably been giving it to someone else as well. So no, that was it, and we had a great day the next day, and we made up for it. That's
one thing that actually strikes me when you go to Willie's, the camaraderie among the people there. You've any multitude of nationalities, females, males, young riders, old riders, and Paul Townend in the middle, and you all just seem to have a smile on your face.
Yeah, it's good. There's a great atmosphere there. It's a laid back yard, I suppose, as so much as it can be, and I think it tells in the horses in there as well. There's good relaxed feel about it, and I think that's important for a yard like that. If you've everyone rushing around, arguing, shouting and roaring, the horses will feed off that as well. So no, it's a great place. As I say, I've been there a long time now, and we've seen a lot of people come and go, but the ones that are there now aren't too bad.
Paul, Christmas is nearly upon us, so we've got Leopardstown and Limerick and 4 days of Leopardstown. Great racing, can't wait for it myself. But I don't have I can relax, I can have as much turkey and ham as I want and pay for it afterwards, as much roses and Quality Street and whatever. But what's it like for you, Paul, say on Christmas Day? Would you avoid the Christmas dinner? How do you kind of plan everything out, or is weight something that you can easily manage?
Yeah, within reason, my weight is pretty good. Yeah, I usually go back home to Cork for Christmas Day and come back up here Christmas night. I suppose in our house it's not as generally people say Christmas Day is the longest day of the year, but we're all racing fans, and there's such good racing on Stevens' Day. We always have something to talk about, and I can eat generally what I want on a day-to-day basis.
That's pretty cool. So you can have the turkey and ham and the gravy and everything.
Yeah, we'll chance some bit of it anyway. Saying that now, I'll probably come back in and bite me. I'll probably have light in Stevens' Day, but so far so good.
Do you expect to be in Leopardstown the 4 days?
Sure, it depends where Ruby goes and what runs up there. I'd imagine I'll be up there a couple of days. If we send something for the King George, Ruby generally goes over and rides in that. So comes up a couple of good rides in Leopardstown, but we are dealing with Willie Mullins, so we'll probably find out in the last minute.
What's the best race you feel you ever rode in, Paul, in terms of quality of a race?
I don't know. I think that's impossible to answer, to be honest, because I've been lucky enough to ride in a lot of races and a lot of big clashes. So look, every race is different for different reasons. So I couldn't single one out for that.
Would you have a dream? Is it the Gold Cup? Is that the dream, or the Grand National? I mean, do you have any kind of emotional attachment to one or the other, or just the Champion Hurdle?
all the 4 championship races in Cheltenham are huge. If you ask any jockey in the weigh room, they want to win all 4 of them. So the Gold Cup is the gold ribbon event, I suppose. And if you were to give me a horse to win a race, I'd love to win the Gold Cup or the Champion Hurdle. So they'd be 2 I would hands on.
Just before we're going to, before you go, or after you go, rather, we're going to talk about LTR. What was the feeling you got riding in the Champion Chase last year when he literally just zoomed by everyone up the hill like a horse that basically had just joined in? I thought it was astonishing, but what was it like to ride in the race?
He like, to all of us in the race, he looked struggling down the back. When Duvan was gone, Nico wasn't happy on him for my money anyway. My horse travelled down the hill into the straight. I thought, happy days, here we go. And next thing, this lad just came by me, and it was like turbo kicked in up the hill. I couldn't believe how quick he went by me and away from me, and the further we went, the further away from me he was going. It was a huge performance, and it blew me away, to be honest, on what I thought was a very good horse in second.
Are there any horses from Willie's we should put in the notebook for the season, Paul?
We've a lot of young horses come out still. With the way the ground has been, we haven't got many of them out yet. They're starting to come out now. There's the likes of Animix, are all the talking young horses. They're all due to come out now in the next couple of weeks. Next Destination, I think, can make into a beautiful Novice Chaser, Staying Chaser, and I'd love to see what heights he can go to.
How good is Animix, you think?
Sure, he's a great horse at the moment. He hasn't run yet.
Yeah.
Look, he's a huge. He's a talking horse, I suppose.
He's a huge what?
He's a huge reputation without doing nothing.
Yeah.
So
he must have done something.
He does things well at home, but we've often had a few morning glories at home that have gone to the track and disappointed us. So it'll be interesting to get him out in the track and hopefully he can perform, and he has to jump and he has to stay. And
okay, read into that what you will. He's very good.
Paul, you should be in the diplomatic corps. You should be in the United Nations. The diplomacy you're showing here today on Friday Night Racing. Are you into any other sports? Are you into the rugby, into the soccer, the GA, Paul? I
play a bit of golf badly.
What's the handicap?
A bad 18. So we play for a bit of fun around here. David Mullins, myself, Brian Cooper, Slippers Madden. We went on a bit of a golfing holiday last year, which is a good crack. So it's a bit of fun. If you're ever short of golf balls, follow us around the course and you'll find plenty. Paul,
you've been an absolute gent to join us on Friday Night Racing. We hope you have a great Christmas. We hope you got plenty of winners, and we hope you may the best person win in the battle for the jockey's title. It's been a good few years for you now, but it's great to be a champion jockey. You have been one, and you'd love to be one again.
I'd love to be one again, yeah. So please God, we can all stay sound and have a good season ahead.
Thanks a million, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Speak to you soon.
Cheers. Thanks.
That's Paul Townend there on Friday Night Racing. What a gent, and lovely insight there on Willie, on the way Ruby rides. Fascinating stuff.
He is a gent, and I guess he's been waiting in the wings a long time. It's clear to see Ruby's not riding as much this season. It's something I'm slightly wary of. I'd prefer if he were riding in pretty much every race, I think. But I guess it's just the way, life catches up with us all in terms of you getting on a bit. And Paul has obviously stepped in to ride a lot of these horses. The succession is, I suppose, the train is in motion in the sense of maybe the succession down the line. But he's played the game well in that he hasn't given out when he's not riding certain horses, and when he does step in, then he never really makes mistakes. Apart from the album photo thing, which to me really was nothing, it was just one of these things that happened. He presents a horse well at a fence. He doesn't panic, and the old adage about the last jockey to go for the whip usually wins. But Paul he nurses horse into the race, and he's very patient. He's beautiful hands in a horse, and he's just a very good guy, down to earth. And I think great things await him.
Good things come to those who wait. And I think Paul was talking about, in an article I read, that he had 37 winners one season. And it's just about being patient. Things will come. I remember Dermot Wells. It took him forever to win the Epsom Derby, and he eventually did it with Harzand. Just wait. Be patient, folks. Be patient in life. Things will come your way.
Jessica Harrington won the Gold Cup at, her first runner at 70? and the Irish
there you
national
go.
the same season.
There you
First
go.
runner.
There you go. Wait, don't be impatient. So Johnny Ward, let's look ahead to the weekend's action. We'll pick 4 races here briefly to go through. The Beecher Chase tomorrow at Aintree over the Grand National fences at 1:30. Then the Tingle Creek Chase over 2 miles at Sandown at 3 o'clock. So let's do these in order. The Beecher Chase first. We've got Black Lion, won the race last year, a favourite for Nigel Twiston-Davies. Ballyoptic, a course winner, also in the hands of Nigel Twiston-Davies, touched off in the Scottish National. Gordon Elliott's entered Don Poley and Noble Endeavour. Ireland also has Cross Hugh Boy, Call It Magic, Fine Theatre, Dare to Endeavour in the field. What you like in this and why?
Well, you mentioned the late, I think you called him the late great Desi Hughes, which he most certainly was. And of all the losses in Irish racing in recent, in many years, his would have been very, very keenly felt. But Desi won this with two horses earlier this year, if you remember either of them, Black Appalachie and Vic Venturi.
I remember them both. Black
Yeah.
Appalachie was touched off by Don't Push It in the Grand National.
He was.
And Vic Venturi was in, I think was at the black and yellow colours.
That's right.
Yes.
And if ever a man deserved to win a national, but no winner of the race since then. So that stretches back to nearly 10 years. No Irish trained winner. So it's going to be tough. And Don Poley with top weight is going to make it tougher. He hasn't run in 2 years. He was due to run down Royal in the J and Wine, but I think it might have been a ground issue. Whatever it was, anyway, he didn't run, but that would imply that he should be more than ready for this. But top weight is going to be tough for him.
So what do you like?
Black Lion.
Black Lion.
Won the race last year. He's a brilliant jumper of these fences. He probably doesn't quite get the national trip. That won't stop him winning over 3 miles too, though. And running fresh, no problem to him whatsoever. I think he's very solid. I'd love to see Don Poley win the race, so it'd be a hell of a
question marks, though. Too many
just
question marks.
the injury he had.
Horses come back from injuries. Look at Thistlecrack recently.
Yeah.
No.
Some injuries you can come back from. The injury he had is particularly difficult. So, he's 9 rising 10. He's a horse that, if ever there was a horse made for these fences and the track in general, it should be him. I'd love to see him at least finish in the first 3 or 4 and, perhaps announce himself as a Grand National contender. But I'm going to go with the Twiston-Davies team, Black Lion, and obviously they have a big runner in Ballyoptic as well.
So Black Lion is a horse that won a Summer Lions Chase at Cheltenham. She's a Grade 1 winner, and he won the Beecher Chase last year very impressively. But I think he fell at the first of the Grand National then subsequently, but he was off, I think, 11 stone 10. So we got the Tingle Creek Chase at, as I said, at Sandown. Altior, the odds-on favourite, facing just 3 rivals, Undeso, So Royale and San Calvados. So is Altior bomb-proof, Johnny?
Yeah, if you look at the ratings, he's 175, which puts him fairly well clear. The fact that Bouverdere was so impressive on his comeback run for the same yard will be very encouraging. Altior is a horse I've kind of half doubted in the past in terms of what he's achieved, but I've just
He has the turbo boost at the end. That's the thing. I felt he was in trouble in that champion chase, but then he just found this other gear.
I laid him in that race, which essentially is betting that he won't win. I can't remember, I think he was odds on, but I laid him. Obviously Duvan was travelling well when he came down, but I don't think he'd have beaten him. I mean, the turn of foot he showed to beat him in, he went from looking beaten to winning by, I think, 6 lengths. And this race, I can't see how it's not going to be run to suit, because there are 3 horses in the race that certainly 2 who could
have their own ideas.
Yeah, and they're just Undeso wants to get on with it. Funny enough, I met him in Willie's lately, and he's actually, when you actually are near him, he's a bit of a gentleman. But in races, he gets on with it, and he will get on with it, as will St. Calvados. But this will set up for Altior.
Okay, Sunday, the Grade 1 John Duggan Memorial Chase at Punchestown goes to post at 2 o'clock. Presenting Percy the Gold Cup favourite, not entered. Only a field of 5. We have Balco de Flo, Min, Ed Wolf, Shattered Love and the Storyteller. Trip, distance, fitness, who is best in line to win this, Johnny?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's trip and distance, and I suppose the ground will make it a little bit more testing than it has been in Ireland, somewhat. Shattered Love for me will outstay Min. Paul wouldn't be old enough to remember Dawn Run, but she was the last mare to win the Gold Cup, and this horse has a chance. I think that will be her route this season. She was brilliant at Cheltenham when the JLT last season. Her comeback run was perfectly satisfactory. I think she'll go off a lot closer to Min in the betting than she is at the moment.
And we've got the Hillyway Chase at Cork. That's also on Sunday. Paul is going down there. Paul Townend's got an off time that race over 2 miles at 1:45. Undeso won it last year, now going to Sandown. 8 declared, 2 JB McManus horses catching the eye. Great field for Willie Mullins, will continue to be ridden by Jody McGarvey. Barry Geraghty is on the Gold Cup 3rd. Annabelle Fly. Is it between these 2, Johnny?
That's probably between Greatfield and Greatfield, really. It's up to him if he wants to win this race, and everything suggests he'll be fine. He's unbeaten over fences. He's a brilliant jumper. Very, very high cruising speed. He just goes at pace that other horses just can't live with, even though he doesn't need to make the run. And I think he's possibly still more effective on proper soft ground, but it will be testing enough in Cork. I think he'll take a hell of a lot of beating. Annabelle Fly, you mentioned, even though he's like a horse that obviously stays really well, he was placed in a Gold Cup and placed in a Grand National. He actually has decent form over 2 miles.
Yeah, and also I think he ran well in the Drinmore once.
He did. So he's not a one-trip pony, as it were. And he's a horse that obviously they'll have other targets ahead for him, but I could see him run a nice race.
So remember, Friday Night Racing is brought to you on Off the Ball with GoRacing.ie. Try to make some money now. We're going to try and do that. Our Injured Irish Jockeys Fund remaining at €1,485 because Johnny picked Samcro last week, and I wouldn't really blame him, to be honest. I felt Samcro had a great chance.
I apologise, it was disappointing.
This week, thanks to thetote.com, we'll try to make a few more quid for the Irish Injured Jockeys Fund. Our €100 bet this week is Johnny Ward.
Forge Meadow in the 2:15 at Cork. She runs in the undercard race, I suppose, to the Hilly Way, but this is a very good mare's chase. She was second to a certain Mengley Khan at Punchestown the last day. He was quite jaw-droppingly good at his fences, and she was in no way entitled to beat him, so she ran quite well. She's nothing of his calibre to beat here.
And is this a winner in each way bet?
Win.
You heard it here, folks, on Friday Night Racing. Forge Meadow will win for Johnny Ward and Jessica Harrington at Cork on Sunday. And a reminder, to get the Tote's best price guarantee on all Irish racing this weekend, see thetote.com for more. Always go with outsiders, the Tote. Always go for the jackpot, the pick six. Always always try to back an outsider on the Tote. And in the past, it definitely got better odds than it would in the ring. Johnny, see you soon. The best luck this weekend.
Same to you, JD. Hopefully we have a few winners.
And that's it for this week's edition of Friday Night Racing. And Paul Townend was great. I hope he's got a great Christmas ahead, and hope you do as well. Next week, we'll look ahead to meetings at Cheltenham, Ferryhouse and Navan. So for now, slán go fóill.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at GoRacing.ie.